All right, welcome to today's episode of the Australian Lawn and Garden Podcast. We have Lawns in Good Nick again. You're in the race for the number one guest, as in most appearances on the podcast.
Well, if I can't be the best, at least I can be the most frequent. It's better than nothing.
Yeah, you're one behind Coach Darren, I think.
Yeah. So someone actually providing value versus me, just
No, people love it, man. People love it. So what we've done is, just to cut straight into it, we have done on your Instagram stories.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because you have 100 times the followers I have. Like, almost exactly.
Well, it's not a competition, but I am winning by a lot. So.
Yeah, definitely not a competition. I'm the one you'd be saying it's not a competition.
Yeah. It's not a competition. It's like lawn care in general. It's like a competition against the neighbours that the neighbours don't know they're in.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're winning. And that's all that matters.
100%. You're dominating me on the Instagram. So we got some questions from the audience. We're just going to answer them.
Yep.
Because we've already done your story. And then we've done a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
I want to kick it off with a saucy one.
Okay.
You ready to get straight into it?
I'm excited.
I did give you a pre-warning about this one. So the question is from a previous guest of the podcast. I don't think she'll care that, but she's been mentioned. Mel from Rewilding Suburbia. And she has said, she goes, any question, eh?
Anything.
and she's a garden lover, an insect lover, loves the habitat, loves nature, blah, blah.
Natives.
Awesome stuff.
All that sort of thing. She does lots of veggies and all that sort of thing. She's got a lot going on in her place in terms of that, doesn't she?
When I went to do the podcast with her, right, she had a top that she had custom made that said, I believe it was Funk Lawn, because there was a B in the third letter. Couldn't be anything else.
Yeah, sure.
FU something K.
Yeah.
Must be Funk.
She was actually, when she was doing her push-up challenge, she was doing push-ups in between some of her garden beds where there was a bit of lawn that I saw. And I commented saying, grass is nice and green.
Yeah. So her question was, your yard is absolutely massive. Why is the majority of it lawn? What is the reason behind the choice? I'd like to think that we've come a long way from the rich wasting good land, and she's rich in inverted commas, wasting good land as a status symbol. Imagine the impact you could have if even a fraction of that space was used to conserve, bring in and support local biodiversity rather than kill it and destroying it. And she had a little comment afterwards. She was like, it's a legit question, blah, blah. But the rich stuff, for people who don't know the status symbol stuff, so there was, back in the day, apparently, the idea of lawn came from the fact that people who were peasants would have to use every square centimetre of their yard to grow food or to do something business-wise to make money, whatever they did. And when people got really wealthy is when lawns and then hedges became a thing where it was a status symbol to show off. I have so much wealth that I can waste my land and I don't have to use it for practical agricultural purposes.
Which that argument to me is like, okay, maybe that was a thing in 1700, but it's not 1700. It's, the world is different now. So when that comes up in different people that are, whether it's Mal or anyone, it's like, okay, yeah, it used to be a status symbol, but lots of things used to be different 300 years ago. Like, I don't know how, relevant that argument is anymore to me.
Yeah, I think the way I look at it is that I get where she's coming from one perspective, but I think she's only looking at it from one angle. The angle is biodiversity. And if you were to say the yard or land exists purely for the sole reason of supporting biodiversity, she's right. Like, the lawn isn't a great breeding ground for, birds and bees and, whatever, native habitat. But land isn't just used for that. And I look at it in the sense of like, there's so many different reasons. So it's like people might, like, if you put a pool in, is that the same thing?
Do you know what? I would have thought the pool that we have is far worse for the environment
yep.
and wasting space
per square metre.
I don't think I've ever had a negative comment about the pool.
But the thing is that people understand that a pool is there for enjoyment, and they go, okay.
Well, for 4 months a year, you know,
Yeah.
in this climate. But yeah, it's like that's a far bigger waste of water and resources, and I'm putting chemicals in there, and, you know, when the ducks land in there and poo all over the place, like that can't be good for the ducks, you know, that kind of thing. So I don't know. I feel like that's a bigger waste than lawn, which I can use all year round. We were out there on Sunday with the kids kicking balls around when you were here the other day. You know, it's actually a functional space. But this could be the whole podcast.
It could be.
Because one thing I want to come back to when you finish, because there's so many
Well,
things.
you can just go for it now.
Well, I even think in terms of like the wildflowers and bees landing and feeding on especially clovers and that kind of thing. Like that's, you know, that's cool. People do no-mow lawns and clover lawns that they just let grow. And that's like actual commitment to the cause of letting the weeds flower and all that kind of thing. Around here in my area, you don't really see that. People will still mow their lawn every, you know, week or two at least. And even, you know, once that clover and stuff starts to flower, they're mowing it anyway. So I take it a step further where I use, you know, fertilizers, and I try to prevent weeds and all that sort of thing. So I don't know, when you've got those, when you haven't even you probably need to have the full benefit of supporting, you know, ecosystems and all that kind of stuff from that perspective of flowering weeds, you probably need to let it grow for an extended period of time so that that's actually functional. If you just have the crown of a weed that sits there and you mow it off every couple of weeks, well, you know, is that doing anything? I don't know. I'm happy to be corrected on that, but I think you probably got to let the weeds flower.
Yeah. Well, then you go, well, why is it the number one goal of someone's yard to support biodiversity? It may be a goal, or
the grassed area in their yard anyway.
Yeah, or whatever. But I just think it's like that's a good goal to have. But so is, like, say, for example, mental health. And like, people don't understand this. You understand this. I understand this. But most people, especially my clients, do not understand that people really enjoy mowing as a hobby. And if someone was like, well, I'm doing this for my mental health, because I like, you know, when I was really unwell and I'd sit in the office, in the house all day working on the laptop, I really looked forward to going out and mowing lawns. And there was times I actually mowed the lawn like multiple times in a day because I just wanted to get out and cut it and, you know, just go for a walk. And it's like, am I doing anything? Like, you cut a few strands, but it's really for that. And then, like we say, playing with the kids. And there's certain people out there who don't care about sports, but I care about sports. I really love kicking a footy. And I found, like, with, you know, my son, believe it or not, he walked the first day he walked like a few steps. He was, you know, we were so excited by that.
And that's the thing to pick up on, that is being able to have a usable yard. If you see yards, you know, it might be, it's the middle of winter right now. And like I said, when you were here the other day, kids are running around, the yard's usable, it's nice, it's, you know, whatever. If you have a yard that's, you know, a mud pit because there's no grass in summer and it's a barren wasteland, that's not a place where you want to put out a picnic rug and play, really. It's dusty and it's crappy and it's not enjoyable to spend time on. You're not like jumping out of your skin to go, you know, sit down and play with a small toddler in that yard, or his little kid kick a ball, or it's, you know, it's not as enjoyable to use, not that it's unusable. And then in winter, when it's a mud pit, you know, how much do you really, and how much do kids and adults alike really want to, you know, to a certain degree for certain small kids, they're happy to slop around in that mud. But, you know, for the most part, it's not very inviting, you know, and you're probably going to then just stay inside. So to have a nice usable yard, you maintain the grass, you look after it. It doesn't have to be to the level of a sports stadium or, you know, people who are super into the hobby like me, but to maintain a nice yard, you know, that doesn't have spiky, gross weeds all over the place and whatever. It's just more enjoyable from that mental health aspect and even the maintenance and all that sort of thing. Like, I can recall plenty of times when both kids were young and they might have had a rough night's sleep and then it's a rough morning and it's like, I can't wait to put this kid down in their cot at midday and just have 45 minutes to myself to go out, put some headphones on, recharge, reset. In that time, my wife will do something for herself as well, before before the baby wakes up, and you're into that. Not to put a negative twist on having kids, because as I think a lot of parents will be aware, some days are better than others. Some days it's smooth sailing, and some days it's rough. And to have that little escape, like, all right, it's nap time. I just know I'm going to get through to nap time. Then I'm going to listen to a podcast, go for a nice walk. It's sunny outside, and enjoy this hobby, and leave behind a beautiful finished product that looks nice and neat and tidy. That's a nice part of my day, on particularly those rougher days sometimes as a parent, potentially, and even if you're not a parent. So yeah, I think that aspect, you want to, and this is the post I put up the other night too, in relation to chemical stuff, is like, look at things holistically. We're not cavemen anymore. We're not, those noble French rich people anymore. Like, it's, the world's a bit different now.
I think I'll add to that. So moving on. Well, I was going to say before Gary started whacking the...
I still need to explain my yard and the layout and the percentage of lawn.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute.
I look forward to that.
But my son, he walked the first day. The second day, right, he was like, taking a few steps. They can't do much. He found a ball and he started kicking the ball.
Mm.
So, like, he can't, like, literally the second day, he's kicking a ball. And, we went out the back. He finds a ball. He's not even 2 yet, and he's trying to kick it to us. He's trying to play with it. And there's a side of that where maybe there's a bunch of people who are not into sport. They're not wired the same way. And they go, I don't see that there could be any benefit for a family to have lawn or whatever. But, when I was at my old place and we had a lot of really nice lawn, my wife would go out there with the kids and she'd work on a laptop, on a towel, on the lawn all the time. She's not a lawnie, but there's ways to bend it that if you just look at it from an ecosystem perspective, right? But even like status symbol, like I think I told Mel this, but like I had at my old place, I had about 200 square meters of grass inside of a fence that was about, I'll put a photo up of this, about, I don't know, waist high. And then out the front was about 400 square meters of verge. And we didn't water the verge. We let the verge die. There was a cactus on the verge. There was some established, there was like a bottle brush of stuff, so established natives, a eucalyptus tree. So they survived. And then we just cut it. And then in winter, we let it be the weeds, whatever. Mm-hmm. And the reason is that I couldn't see that lawn from inside my house. And I wasn't going to go use that lawn from outside, that fence. So I didn't care about impressing people driving past my house, right? And it's kind of the same with you. Like the real lawn that you have is out the back. You have a little bit of lawn, but 5 people drive past this. It's not a very busy section unless there's some crazy parties down the road.
Even the front lawn too. Like our kids will ride bikes out there, and we've got a little loop around that, a little garden bed there, and they ride around, and there's space for them to be riding bikes. And so there's plenty of times, especially when it's nicer weather, where, me or Kate will be inside cooking dinner and the other one's just kind of chilling on the grass while the kids ride bikes, and they stop and then they climb up that tree in the middle there, and then they pick up sticks and do what little kids do. But, that to me is functional in a sense out there as well. Not as much as the backyard. We're not kicking as many balls and stuff around for obviously, safety reasons near the road. But yeah, it's still, depends. Yeah, like perfect example you've said. It's annoying stuff outside the fence, not functional. You're never going to use it. So why would you?
Why waste?
Pump in thousands of litres of water and products and all that sort of thing just for this road?
Yeah, to impress someone who's driving past. Mm. I had I think as well, like there's some, if you have, because people just have different preferences and different likes and all that sort of stuff. And I think that if somebody has to have their lawn a certain way, right, or their yard a certain way to appease somebody else's opinion, it sort of turns people off the whole idea entirely. So what I mean by that is, like, we've talked about this with vegans before, right? Like, it's the 5% of vegans who are really, really vocal and critical of people who are technically omnivores that sort of, I guess, the good messages that a vegetarian or a vegan diet actually would promote kind of get lost to the sort of, judgy attitude. And I feel like if you had the same things in the garden, somebody who's like a real lawnie, it just feels judged all the time by people who are not in the same sort of headspace as them.
Mm.
They might get turned off the idea of having natives. They might get turned off to a point where they go, no, I'm not going to, just because somebody was really pushy about it, I'm now not going to do it.
You see videos where it's like, every time I eat a burger, I get 2 patties just to make sure that one vegan out there isn't making a difference. You know, like there'll be people out there who are, you know, into lawn, like, well, I'm not going to put a garden bed in just because you want me to do that or whatever, because of these people. Like, I've reworded heaps of comments when I've replied to people that have put in, you know, strong comments related to where's the trees and stuff in my yard and things like that. And I've reworded their comment and be like, hey, mate, yard looks great. Just wondering, you know, have you planted many natives and what's going on? And then I'll be like, then I'll put the reply, be like, yeah, mate, hey, yeah, down in that side garden bed, there's a heap of lily pillies and I've put the polygala in and there's this and there's a garden bed out the front, building my veggie garden, or the veggie garden's built. Like, you should go check out that content, you know, like ask questions. And if people came in that were, you know, native focused, all that stuff, that instead of being like, this is killing the, you know, the world, this is a reason for global warming, like this is killing the universe, like screeching and howling, instead of, you know, and if on the other side of things they were like, hey, have you considered putting in some more natives, or have you considered this and that? Could be a bit more beneficial along with your lawn. And I could, you know, because some videos, it just doesn't stand out as much, certain things that I've done around here for me in particular. But I don't know, do you want me to talk about my yard and the layout and the amount of lawn and stuff?
Yeah, because you've got 5 fruit trees or something, a bunch of fruit trees.
Yeah, so, well, to go back to the start, is we were very fortunate when we moved in to have a very blank canvas. And there was just the cubby house was existing. There was kind of the veggie garden fence was there, and there was a couple of things, but there was nothing growing, and it was, you know, poor soil and all that sort of thing. Sorry. So there was, existing garden bed at the back and on the side, but the trees down in that side garden bed had died when we first moved in because it was just heavy clay and they just drowned in all the rain we had in spring 2022. So I've got 500 squares right now of beautifully manicured lawn. So I've blocked off about 150 over on the side there, kids' playground area. So there's trampoline, and, you know, adding sandpit and adding more stuff there. There's fruit trees at the back. So I've got a lemon tree that I moved from another spot over into that back, and that's fruiting really well at the moment, which is great. So yeah, I've got lemon, 2 apple trees, oranges. We've been really enjoying the oranges over the last couple of months. It's been fruiting really nicely. Nectarines. Is that it? I feel like there's another one. Oh, there's lime. So yeah, heaps of fruit trees over in that back corner, sort of in the kids' playground area.
They're small because they're new, because you planted them. Well, one of them is mature that you moved, right?
Yeah, so yeah, well, the lemon tree, that was probably just under 2 years ago that I moved it. So it's taken its time, but it's come back to life.
Well, the point is, like, I think if you give it 5 years when they're massive, it'll be really obvious on a drone shot.
Yep.
That there's big fruit trees in this yard.
Yeah, true.
But you planted them, and that was lawn before.
Yep. So yeah, with all of that over in that corner, well, the orange tree actually was over in that area, but I've moved it about 5 meters to be in a cluster of fruit trees in a position with better sun.
Yeah.
So yeah, kids' playground. So that's 150-ish blocked off over in that corner. Planted new lily pillies. So some of those lily pillies that I planted just over a year ago, some of them are nearly as tall as me now, 7 foot. So they're like getting up to nearly fence height, which is great.
That's taller than Tim the Lawnmower Man.
Yeah, no, I think he's 7'2", isn't he?
Yeah, he's close, yeah.
I'm nearly there. And then on this side over next to the pool, this is something I've touched on in heaps of content, but that's about 120, 125 square meters. I'm going to come up past that a little bit more and extend it. So lawn that I'm currently maintaining, it's an annoying little dinky section. I don't know why I did it, but I'm going to move the irrigation from there, cut it, and add another 30 square meters to that area. And in that area,
garden bed.
Yeah, so that 30 square meters is going to be garden. That entire sort of 150 in that space, want to put in a fire pit area and then feature garden. So that fire pit will probably be 15 to 20 square meters ish. probably want to have about 40 or 50 square meters of lawn in that little space as well, which is going to be a different lawn variety. Just nice to have something different as well, but also be able to make good content with that to help people that have that certain type of lawn. And then, so what does that leave me with? About 80 to 90 square meters of garden, feature garden sort of area. So I'm actually a little bit stressed about it because I'm like, I want to get it right. Like I want to get a nice layout, and I want to ask Joel and Ash actually tonight.
I was going to say, live event. Got a great event for you to go to.
Yeah. Put my hand up. So guys,
landscape designers coming.
Let's just say you had this space. Where would you start? And then just have a notepad. But so yeah, going to be thousands of dollars worth of plants to go in there. I'd love to get a massive Waterhousia, Floribunda, Weeping Lily Pilly, big one of those. Like I'm looking at all these. I started looking at it, just an article on native trees. I'm like, oh, I want that. Oh, I want that. Oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Oh, I want that. And I get through them. I've got like 10 different trees. I'm like, how am I going to cull this? So anyway, so that my main lawn area is going to be cut down to about 470. So from this blank canvas where there was a lemon tree, an orange tree that had probably pretty recently been planted, and a veggie garden that was dead, I've now got massive veggie garden that I've planted out. I've got 5 or 6 fruit trees, which we've started to harvest some of those oranges and things like that. I've got I have already put in a heap of natives in there, so the polygalas in between the ficus that were existing at the back. There's 10 or 11 of those. 5 or 6 lily pillies. Leucadendrons are not native, but I really like them. And they're in between the lily pillies. And then, a massive feature garden, which is just going to be absolutely covered in colour and plants. And it's going to be, I can't wait for it. I'm really excited for it. It's just so, as we slowly start to fill things in, and now we've got that beautiful picket fence over there. When I put in the big archway as you walk into the veggie garden, and cucumbers or whatever's climbing over the top of it, and that's flourishing, all of a sudden, like if you sort of stand at the back of the house there and look out at the back when I started versus, especially once that garden has time to flourish and grow through, as well as the veggies, like you're all of a sudden looking out and seeing much more beautiful color and, usable, beautiful yard that I can't wait for. And I think it's a bit of a...
That's the thing, the usable word.
Yeah.
But it's like you've got enough space that you can do a little bit of everything.
Yep.
And it all complements. Because you can kick the footy, grow your veggies, have your kids jump on the trampoline, pick some fruit off the fruit tree, then have a fire pit in the afternoon or in the evening. It's like...
Yeah.
But that's the thing. It's like if you look at it one-dimensionally as a yard, as like just serving biodiversity, you would still critique that because you'd go, well, what benefit does the fire pit have? What benefit does the pool have? What benefit does the trampoline have?
It's like, where do you
it's a different
draw
type,
the line?
It's a different benefit.
Yeah.
It's like saying, well, why put in... I mean, this is extreme. I know Mel wouldn't think this, right? Because I'm using a hyperbole example. But like, let's say like you had the driveway. Well, the driveway doesn't support biodiversity either. It's like, but at some point I have to drive my car in, and, at some point, like, I've got to do other things. And if I have friends over... Anyways, we had... this reminded me, I had Yak on. I don't know if you listened to...
He replied on my story the other night about chemicals on lawns, and then exchanged a few DMs and stuff as well. So
yeah, he's a nice guy.
Nice guy. Enjoyed his podcast, yeah.
Yeah, when he came on, he talked about how... And I think this is a much more attainable goal. But he was like, if every house in Australia just planted 3 natives, we would make a massive, what did you call it, botanical garden. And...
Yep.
If you go to Perth one day, we'll go to Kings Park, take everyone to Kings Park. Kings Park is a conservation area, and they plant a lot of new plants, and they have a lot of natives there, huge amounts of awesome grass, kikuyu as well. Still in the cut, fertilised, all that sort of stuff. And I'm like, that to me, Kings Park is the standard where it's usable, beautiful space people want to go kick a footy, hang out in, and complemented... Or either, it depends which way you look at it, the natives are complemented by the lawn, and the lawn is they complement each other. And it's like, that's the sort of space I like.
Yeah.
And I love the clean cut, beautiful. This morning, here's Gary again.
Yes, I get it, mate.
What's going to happen? I'm nervous around cats. Not just like that. I'm going to get attacked, but there's cups here. What are they going to knock off? But Sydney event, we've got some hedging experts there, and they do a lot of buxus, and buxus would be the same sort of thing in that it's not biodiverse in terms of providing habitat for many native insects or birds or whatever.
Yeah.
But the truth is, most homeowners do not have the budget or the time to grow buxus, because they're incredibly slow growing, and you're going to wait years. And they would go, do you know what I'd prefer Westringia? I prefer lily pillies, I prefer morayas, and all of us, or rosemary. All of those are flowering. All of those, to some degree, are native, depending on how you define native, because they might not be indigenous to the area.
Yeah.
But most homeowners who are into hedges, I would say in the country, if you gave them an option, those are the 4 options they'd be going to buy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go, well, now we've got flowers, we've got biodiversity, and they've got to do a bit more work and whatever, but they don't care. The idea I'm getting at is there are ways of going about the hobbies you have in a way that's a little bit more common sense. Anyways.
Like, I think even, like, people early on were like some of my first renovations in this yard. So first major renovation was January, 2-3 months after we'd moved in. And at that point, the trees in that side fence had died. And I'd pulled them out, and I was sort of just, things happening, little kids, blah, blah, blah. Hadn't replanted yet. Didn't sort of really want to put in fresh trees in an absolute 8 to 9 hour full sun position. Mm-hmm. So, was holding off, and people would had negative comments that were like, what a boring, dull, lifeless yard. And I was sort of agreed. The ficus at the back was still growing. They obviously were quite young when we moved in. They'd not long probably been planted. So they weren't there for a bit of texture and stuff at the back. There was nothing in that side garden bed. I'd sort of started to work on the kids' playground area and block that off, but I hadn't, there was nothing there yet. And I'm like, look, I agree. This is a boring yard.
Yeah.
But, even throughout last season, it's cool to look at videos of, say, spring reno last year where my lily pillies over there are tiny. I had correas actually there that died as well. They didn't like it there, so I did have full native.
Maybe they didn't like you.
Yeah, maybe.
Nah.
Yeah. So the correas didn't like it, so then they got replaced with leucadendrons because I fell in love with them during that period. So, yeah, come back to spring renovation. This year is going to be way better, and then next year, the year after that, and then, 3-4 years' time, especially with that feature garden, that backdrop, especially because I record a lot from the back fence because of where the sun comes across. When there is in that, that feature garden I'm talking about, when my lily pillies there are completely blocking out the neighbour's shed, and I've maybe put in some what are they called? Lucinda's Everlastings, those ones.
Yep.
I think that's the brand name, not the type of flower. But, underplant sort of around the lily pillies and stuff, and have some stuff flowering around there and everything as well, with massive trees there, and my polygalas have grown up taller as well to get in around the ficus. My weeping lily pillies 4 meters tall as well in a few years' time. Like, that to me is a beautiful yard. I can't wait for that yard.
Yeah.
Things take time. Things got to grow.
Well, you inherited, or you took over a blank canvas.
Yeah, nothing.
And how much money, like, this is the other thing, is like budget, and like you already had kikuyu. That's I'm not sure what your opinion is on kikuyu versus other lawns, but you've got kikuyu. Why would you rip it all out and put buffalo in, or why would you rip it all out and put cooch or whatever? Yeah, you're just dealing like
even the front garden bed as well that I planted out in September. Like, it's done really well throughout early winter and autumn as well. But that's starting to grow through. Like this spring, I'm big burst, and when that's all bursting as well, heaps. I think it's like, I can't remember exactly how many plants. I think there's a couple of non-natives in there, but I think it was like 35-ish natives that have gone into there. So it's like, guys, come on.
Like 100 meters of buxus, whatever you ripped out.
Oh, yeah, tons of buxus removed. And even in that garden bed in the middle of the driveway sort of thing there, in like the loopish kind of bit, I'm keen to there was someone you had on and he was talking about, if you've got a little gap in the garden, put a little pumpkin in there.
Like castor,
Yeah, so I'm keen to
He's in Melbourne,
spot.
mate.
Oh, yeah?
You should have him over one day.
Consultation. Well, even in that garden bed I was just talking about, I had to buy 2, it's called rootstock, the asparagus that I got. It's like a root ball that looks dead that you plant. Did you see me plant my strawberries?
I don't know anything about the asparagus.
I don't know if it's called rootstock or not. I don't know.
Might be.
I might. I should have just gone with it, and I was either wrong or sounded smart.
If you said it very convincingly, 90% of the audience would have gone with you anyway.
Yeah. So I've got one, like I don't want, because asparagus plants can get quite big and everything from what I gather. So I put one in the veggie garden in a certain spot and I'm happy with that there, but I didn't want to put in two massive plants. Like we don't eat that much asparagus. So I was like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to whack this in that front garden bed in a little spot. And if it grows and I've got an asparagus plant as part of that garden, like great. And in that garden bed in the middle, like might chuck, you know, some really big growing things like a watermelon, a pumpkin, some other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Like I've actually got a garden bed on the other side of the house there on the eastern sort of side that it gets pretty much full sun in summer and it gets zero sun in winter. But I'm thinking like, cause it's probably 20 to 25 meters long, a narrow little garden bed there. So the part where there's fence, I can put in some, you know, I could climb stuff up there. I'm keeping heaps of jars to grow tomatoes, to have heaps of pasta sauce, pizza sauce throughout the year. So I need to put some research into preserving and all that sort of stuff. You know, corn and like other bits and pieces that you know, can use that garden bed. So I'm looking at it like, oh, yep, cool. I've got to dig off that top layer because it looks like terrible soil. Bring in some clean stuff. And, you know, as soon as I'm sort of watching it and as soon as that line, the sun's getting high enough to come over the top of the house to hit that garden bed for at least a few hours a day, because it's only going to get higher in the sky, obviously. Bang, like let's get some stuff in there, make use of all that space as well. And if I do have an abundance, like my sister doesn't work too far away, like, hey, drop in and pick up a heap of stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Which you will.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
that's the problem. Like,
tons.
People tomatoes and cucumbers and zucchinis and then lemons as well.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do I do?
Yeah, I've got heaps.
Friends, come take them.
Yeah. But like that's always been like I had at our old house. I had two little garden beds that I built, two little raised beds at back. Grew heaps of great carrots and spinach and heaps of broccoli. Kids love the peas. So, you know, just cracking open the sugar snap peas and eating those and like, heaps of stuff that grew in those two little, I think they were like two garden beds that were 2x1. So in 4 square meters, I was growing plenty, and loved it. And so it's like, yeah, anyway, like it's always been a goal. It's always what I've wanted to do at this house. And so now that it's kind of happening and I've got some stuff planted and I'm like it's starting to come together. And I want my account to be, you know, what I'm into obviously is what I'm always going to post, but to be 60, 70% lawn and then, you know, native gardening. And these are some great plants. These are some of my favorite plants. And look, I'm harvesting this, I'm planting this in the veggie garden. Like I can't wait for that. That's what I'm into. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to being able to bring more people along on that journey as well.
Well, here's a question for you, which might surprise some people. Do you know anybody who is making content for lawn who actually doesn't want something approximating that? Like a holistic garden, maybe some vegetables, some other plants. Because I personally do not know a single person, no one's coming to mind, who wouldn't agree with that philosophy. They might have different preferences where they want slightly more of this, slightly less of this, whatever.
The Venn diagram, the crossover between loving lawn and loving the environment and wanting to have, you know, beautiful plants around the outside to make the lawn look nicer.
Yep.
And potentially to grow some veggies and stuff as well. That the crossover is huge. And I think so many people that are way on the extreme side of lawn is murder put people off. I think
they think that the majority of people don't care. But at the end of the day, like, I shared to Mel a video, you know, Travis from the Lawn Lab. Mm-hmm. He put up a video of him making a chicken coop.
Yeah. Yep. Veggie garden
chicken coop.
Cool, yeah.
And I was like, see?
Yeah,
like,
see,
lawnies, and like he has had essentially acres of lawn there. And he was like, he doesn't know this conversation's going on. And he was like, I've been wanting to do this for 2 years. And it was a time thing, I think. Probably a money thing as well, because he's put a lot of effort into it. So, but, you know, like, the point I'm getting at is, you know, Ben's the same, like from Lawn Tips. He's got all these ideas about putting gardens and plants and all that
Magnet
sort of
like
stuff.
Augusta and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, like it's a huge crossover for sure.
And like people want like lawn, like Tim the Lawnmower Man. When I did his podcast, he said that he used to have a house. And I don't think Mel knows this, but he shared this clip. It's like he wanted to have a like a nice lawn. He had a tiny little patch, and he looks back on it. He's like, "Why did I want just lawn to the fence? It looks like a prison."
Mm.
He looks like now. He's like, "I don't like that anymore." And now he's bought property, and he's making veggie gardens. And he's got his chickens, and he's got he's got natives because it's basically a bush block.
Yeah.
So Tim's doing us all a favour. All the lawn lovers out there.
Nah, I think he should clear it and get a fairway and
they should cut it all down.
Kill it all.
Bent grass that needs to be watered 3 times a day to keep it alive in summer.
And that's where you've got to have the perspective. Yes, I have a huge amount of lawn, and yes, I could go and plant an oak tree in the center of it all, and someone else might, someone else out there who's got different priorities and different interests. It's just I'm trying to think of a good example, but I don't think we need to probably explain it to your audience who are listening to this. It's the people, I even think about my old house and just simply putting in some beautiful petunias. So my lawn looked really nice.
Yep.
And then, I just put in some petunias in this little front garden bed that was at the entrance to the house. And when they're flowering and colourful, even just that tiny little addition on a little tray, little $6 tray of petunias or whatever, water them and look after them. And that little pop of colour just makes the lawn look so much nicer in itself. So it's maybe you could call it an ulterior motive if it's still lawn care focused, but it's just nicer. And I when we were up in Queensland recently, we did a thing at the Budrum Ginger Factory, and there was a talk about bees and everything. And I'm sure I've heard this somewhere else before, but it was about how bees were up there as the most important animal in the world.
Yep.
For their impact on and I'm all about that. I love that. I do want to encourage bee, I actually got stung by a bee and had a bit of a reaction, so I definitely don't want to get stung again.
You don't encourage them too much.
Yeah.
You can be encouraged, but from a distance.
Yeah.
Don't come too close. No cuddles.
I want to help.
Don't kiss me.
I'm not giving you clover, but I'll give you stuff over there. Stay over there. But I'm honestly all about that. I want my grandkids to not be living in a barren climate of, ice and fire where it's just it's scary. You see Attenborough documentaries and stuff of that impact. And even sort of what I was getting at with chemical usage in my reel from the other night, probably could be a while ago by the time this pod goes up. But, I think about people will sit there and say, if you use herbicides to spray weeds in your lawn, the environmental impact is disgusting. And, I can't believe that. And then they'll go and see a fly and they'll spray the fly spray, and then they'll put deodorant on, and then they'll put dishwasher tablets in there, and clean their clothes, and then they'll, wash their hair, and all of that chemical exposure. They'll make unnecessary car trips, that they didn't need to make, extra emissions from that. So if you compare a bottle of Spartan being applied 2 times a year and you compare a year's worth of deodorant usage, I don't know, 5 or 6 cans. When you compare just that, that's not
Spartan from memory. Is it 30 mil per 100 square meters?
Yeah, so it's a small amount,
and you would do it twice a year.
Well, I think
so. The average lawn, if it's 150 square meters across Australia, the average lawn would be using less than 100 mil of that product for an entire year. And when you put that product down, it's a non-scheduled chemical. It doesn't affect bees. It doesn't affect earthworms, all that sort of stuff. Then compared to, there's other pre-emergents that people used to use, like atrazine, that's polluted waterways, blah, blah, blah. It's not that, so can't categorize it the same way. You use that means you don't use as much post-emergence, which are the harsher chemicals. When I was maintaining my lawn, I would probably do 3 sprays of herbicide a year. And 200 square meters, I'd be using maybe 120 mil of pre-emergent in the year. Mm-hmm. And then I'd be doing maybe 1 post-emergent spray. And that would be a spot spray. I wouldn't even do the whole lawn.
Exactly.
And that might be 30 mil, you know. And so you're talking about less than in the entire year of those chemicals. And I would almost never use fungicides because you didn't need to. Again, if I did, it would be select areas. I wouldn't use... I would use 1 preventative insecticide, which again would be maybe 20 mil 30 mil of aceleprint, again, a non-scheduled chemical. We're buying the more expensive stuff. Then the rest is fertilizers.
Yeah.
And people could do an entire yearly program of either full organic products or very simple chemical compounds, like literally just iron, manganese, maybe a bit of nitrogen. They could do a full year of that. And people, because you're spraying something, and I've said this before, like I could be out there, I said this at a job I used to do. We got complaints because we were spraying stuff. And we were like, literally, I could be spraying Pepsi Max and they could be in there drinking Pepsi Max or orange juice or whatever.
Yeah.
But because you have a sprayer on the back, people get nervous. And I understand it because they don't understand exactly what's going on. That's not their industry. They're worried. But I think that people think like we're pumping chemical on. But yeah, the 200 square meter lawn that I used, we'd be using probably less than 200 mil of an actual active ingredient for the entire year.
Yeah. And that's where I was coming to as well, is like quantities and that sort of thing and how common it actually is. So for me, like if you compare just Spartan versus deodorant in a year's worth, that Spartan I would say has got a more of a environmental impact, the production, the trucks that drive it around and blah, blah, blah. So, the actual chemical itself as to whether you breathe it in or whatever, for the environment, potentially once it's sprayed and whatever else,
Yeah.
But the thing is, so you would be just as observant as I am. If you are driving around and you see someone with a backpack sprayer or with a spreader, you're like, oh, look at them. They're looking after their lawn, like, oh, cool. Like that's the sort of thing you just notice as someone who's into that.
Yeah.
Living in this area, even at my old house, I could not think of a time. I can think of my neighbour throwing out a box of seed once, and that's probably the only time I have observed someone in my local area doing anything but mowing. So the actual amount of people that use products, put on backpack sprayers and maintain a nice lawn, very low. I would say that in my street, 98%, I'm sure, use deodorant, use dishwashing liquid, use laundry liquids, blah, blah, blah. The percentage of them, the stuff out of that's recyclable, that actually gets recycled properly, or the end of the bottle gets rinsed out and poured down the wrong drain or whatever. Like the actual environmental impact in terms of exposure to chemicals, the herbicides and stuff, if there was, you had to choose one or the other to pour over your breakfast, it's probably the lawn care chemical you don't want, the herbicide or whatever. But the actual amount of production, how much people use it day to day in society, not just, because, like I said, I don't know what people are doing in their backyards. And just because I haven't seen it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It doesn't mean there's people in this street or in this suburb who use pre-emergent and all that sort of thing. But, I just think it's not that prevalent. The people out there who are this into lawn care is not that prominent. And there's, as a collective suburb, the amount of usage and production and waste and all that sort of thing, environmental impact of general household chemicals is way, way more than those who maintain a nice lawn. And like the percentage of lawn that my yard is, even compared to the sort of nature reserve that's out the back of my house, let alone all of the other yards in this suburb, just as an example of that, is my lawn the cause of global warming and really as a percentage to the, the area really that impactful compared to the broader perspective of all chemicals?
Not compared to, if you compare it to the comment section. But what I was kind of mind then is like, if your hobby, if you took your yard, right, and you got rid of, say, your lawn area, so the rest of it you kept, and you put in gravel, paving, and a massive shed, and then you were
to work on cars or something.
I was thinking motorbikes, two-stroke motorbikes, right? Two-stroke motorbikes are really bad for pollution. Same with two-stroke web sippers and stuff like that. And if you were like, oh, you're working on those stuff, you got oils, you've got obviously fuels, right? Cleaning stuff, whatever, right? some of those brake cleaners and things like that, they are starting to get into that harsher kind of chemical.
And if someone washes out the bottom of their shed floor and it goes straight
with a
down
high
the
pressure
drain,
cleaner, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're not deliberately trying to get rid of the product until they might have stored it well, but you spill stuff every now and then. Put some chlorine or hydrochloric acid to clean your concrete or whatever people do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that. I feel like if someone took an aerial shot of your yard and that was your yard, they'd actually go, "Oh, look at those fruit trees," because the color draws the attention to the fruit trees. But an aerial shot of your yard goes, "Oh, look at the lawn." And do you think about it, like you inherited the kaiku that was there, so you have spent no carbon producing new lawn, right? Whereas if you were to rip it all out, the carbon to mine the rock, you know, for the gravel, the cement for a pad, you know, the actual structure, and then lawn and trees, large trees are the best about being heat sinks for the environment. But lawns are way better than any other low surface.
I know where I want to stand on a hot day. I don't want to stand 100%. On my pool tiles. I want to stand on the grass.
Think about what that does for your electricity bill, because the radiant heat off it. You know, like, we should probably move on because we've spent 46 minutes answering this one question.
Good chat.
It is a good chat. But we've got 20 other questions to get to. But look, they're much shorter. We went through them before, which is why we started with this one.
Yeah.
But
look, to answer Mel's question as a whole, hopefully, like, I think it's, you know, and the people that come in, you know, well, there's been recent comments where I've said, hey, if you just scroll back like 3 posts, you'll see me building my veggie garden. Like, come back and apologize once you've watched that, please. You know, like, there's just, people will ask questions. Sorry, they will throw hate and, you know, and make assumptions about you hating the environment and wanting to kill every insect within a square kilometer versus asking questions. And so hopefully that actually answers Mel's question. And, you know, I think your audience is probably already on board with lawn care, so they probably don't need convincing, I guess. But it's about perspective, and it's about asking, like, oh, hey, like, what are you actually doing with your yard and how did it start? So I've taken 800 or so squares of grass, turned it into...
Here we go. Gary's going to jump on the glasses.
Yeah,
I can see it happening.
Yourself, mate. And turn it into, down to 470, which is still a massive patch of lawn, but I'm probably up to... I would have spent $2,000 on plants here. I would have put in 50 plus... Oh, if you include the veggies that have been planted, I would have put in 80, 90, maybe 100 native plants in general, vegetables, since I've moved in. Like, that's nothing to scoff at. I'm trying to make this yard, well, not trying to please anyone either, but I'm trying to make it what I want it to be, which is colourful, which is beautiful, homegrown fruit and veg, which is a beautiful lawn because it's satisfying. I enjoy it, and, you know, the kids enjoy it, and it's a great space to be. So anyway,
next question.
So
44. Yeah, that was the intro.
That's a quick
50-minute intro. Look at that.
Now, do you want to answer every question or pick out the best one?
Look, let's go through every one, and we will. Because I know there's some interesting ones in there.
We'll speed answer.
We'll speed answer.
Well, this first one is a speed answer kind of one. This is HM9 RIS. Please explain the morning versus evening watering debate. Go, Luke.
If you water in the evening, your water is more likely to sit on the surface of the leaf because it's not going to. It's cold, it's damp, and if you get continual days with 10 hours of leaf wetness, you're at risk of fungal diseases.
Yep.
However, there are some areas, so that's the rule of thumb. There are some areas where it's really windy at night, and you might be watering the air essentially because it blasted everywhere. So and then it depends on the temperature and how humid. I've actually found in Perth we're not very humid. It doesn't matter that much.
Yep.
You know, but areas where it is really humid, you're probably risking some fungal disease. So if you water in the morning, it'll get down to the soil. The little bit that sits on top probably evaporates away in the sunlight.
Yep. Even for us here, like on a 35-degree day, it's, you know, if people want to water when they get home from work or after dinner at 6, 7 o'clock, go and move the sprinklers around, it's still probably 32, 33. Whereas in the morning, it's, you know, 16, 17, 18, 19 degrees. So, yeah, the actual temperature.
That's evaporation.
Water lost.
Next one.
Emma from Lawn Care Australia says, what's your least favourite part of lawn care? I think my least favourite part of lawn care, I actually don't mind. Like the renovations, the mowing. Probably, if I had to choose one thing that I don't like out of anything of the actual maintenance is probably edging and whippersnipping. But I also don't know. It wouldn't be by much. But I think my least favourite part is when things are going wrong and it doesn't look good. Because you put in all this effort. And I was thinking about it earlier when I saw this question. I'm like, I feel like it's the equivalent of like you're playing sport and you're an athlete and you're doing everything right, and then just a hamstring goes or something. All you want to be doing is playing that sport, but, and you put in so much effort and time, and it's important to you. And for us, guys who are into lawns, we're guys and girls, obviously, putting in all this time and effort and money and wanting to make it look really nice. And then when it's fungal disease or, it's getting really dull and crappy in winter, like it's sort of, I know for me personally, I'm sure there'll be others who agree with me, and there'll be plenty of others who think it's completely lame. But when I'm like looking out and there's an issue or there's something, and it's going downhill, I'm like, it just does make me go, it's annoying, it just like frustrates me or whatever. Whereas when it's shining, I'm like,
everything's good.
Looking out there is great.
From a contract perspective, the most annoying thing is actually not the lawn care, it's the clients.
Yeah.
Great clients are great, bad clients are annoying.
Have you ever, with having it as a business and a hobby, you ever just gone like, nah, I do not want to go home and do this? It's something someone said to me at one point when I was like, thinking about it, and I'm like, I don't want to get to a point of, because I do it 40 hours a week, not want to do it at home.
No, because I think it's, if you enjoy what you do, if you have a business that's burning you out, and a lot of people, where it comes from is that they're working too hard, they're not charging enough, and they kind of get this, they get to the end of the day and they're exhausted because they're busting their gut to make ends meet. And I was at that stage when I was like that. So I wouldn't spend that much time on my own lawn because I was too busy, too mentally frayed, and it was just a general tiredness coming home.
Yeah.
But if you've got like a business where you're enjoying it, you're charging good, you've got good clients, and then you come home at a reasonable time, right?
Yep.
You can see there's value, marketing value, there's all sort of value to having a great lawn yourself, especially with the experiences. Like, like you can have it where it's like you're doing your lawn, you make it look really good. Now you start having some problems, you've noticed it straight away. Clients who are there every fortnight, you can go, oh, they're probably having the same problem too.
Yeah.
There's benefits. Anyways, next question.
Best way to start to get a lawn like yours, is fertilizer the most important thing or something else? To me, and what I always say to people to get started, the biggest thing is regular mowing, for sure, and not cutting off too much in one go. Is fertilizer the most important thing? There's another question here somewhere. I think that's something like, if you could only have, buy only lawns, one lawn product you can't go without. I think we'd have different answers. I think for me here, on clay soil where it's fairly consistent rainfall year round, we can still easily go 4, 5, 6 weeks with little or no rain in summer, and then it sort of bounces around a little bit. But I feel like for me, I'd probably say a good slow release granular fertilizer if you only give me one product. Whereas probably for you, I would say you'd probably say wetting agent in Perth.
Yeah, and I've said that before, because at the end of the day, if you're going to put water down, you have to put water down in Perth, and you want to make sure all of it's getting down. And you can put a fertilizer down and then it dies because it's, the soil's become hydrophobic because it's getting cooked. So you kind of like, even though you won't get a sexy lawn with a wetting agent, at least your lawn will be alive.
Yeah.
And you're probably using about 20 or 30% less water to get the same results.
Yep, that's it. You need, obviously the nutrients and stuff. I think if I only had 2 products, anywhere, like Nick, you can go anywhere in the world and you only get 2 products. It's probably wetting agent and granular fertilizer.
Yep, I agree.
But yeah.
Or even like a complete liquid if you just want to apply more. But yeah. A wetting agent, a fertilizer, I don't care about the weeds. If you mow regularly enough, eventually the lawn will probably outcompete most, unless there are other grassy weeds.
Yeah.
But all the broadleaf weeds you should be able to get on top of, and then you can hand pull the rest.
Yep. That's Kyle.engineer540, by the way. But yeah, so I'd say mowing, regular mowing, watering in summer, and then, if I could only have one product, is fertilizer the most important thing? It does depend probably on your soil and stuff. For me here, it's a granular fertilizer that's going to feed the lawn, that I can put out 4 or 5 times a year. So it sort of probably does depend a little bit whether you're on Perth sand or whatever. But yeah, I'm not going to ask that silly question. What size Mowmaster are you running? This is by Paulie Almighty. what size MoMaster are you running? How do you like the MoMaster? And would you like a bigger one for yours? And someone also asked, Trick_89, dream cylinder mower. I would say my cylinder mower is my dream cylinder mower. I've got a HC26, which is a high cut 26-inch wide MoMaster. It was something I was really tossing up personally, like needing a bigger mower. When we first moved in here, I used my 20-inch Massport for... I only started cylinder mowing after my January renovation, and I got the MoMaster in June. So, yeah, sort of 5 months with that Massport, and it was like, this is too small. This takes too long. And I was tossing up a 26 or a 28-inch. I think potentially a 28. I'd love to use a 28 out there to see how it goes. I think early on I was like, wow, this is massive. This is 200 kilos. 26-inch, it's so much bigger. Now that I'm used to it and I can maneuver it around quite easily, maybe if anything, making it a little bit wider could actually just save me a couple of extra runs. But now just like a singles pattern takes me sort of, I think it's about sort of 17, 18 minutes. I always get slowed down because I'm a wanker moving tripods and stuff around. Whereas the Massport was probably 26 to 27-ish sort of minutes. So it definitely saves me a lot of time. Bigger stripes look a bit more in place on a larger lawn. So yeah, there's another cylinder mower question here as well, which is someone asking, I'm going to lay iron cutter, which is a type of couch, in my backyard after some renos. Will a cheaper cylinder be okay? I might be making this up. I might be mixing this up somewhere else. Did you start out with a Scotty with your granddad and stuff, and he had cylinder mowers? And
before for the business. But the first cylinder mower I used, I was about 15. We had a Star. Which is a Scott Bonner Chinese copy.
Cool. Yep.
So I would say the cheaper the cylinder mower, the only problem you're going to get is, does it have parts available? Because they'd be old, right? That's why Scott Bonners are good, because the parts are available. Some of these older ones don't. And is there enough meat left on the reel and the bed knife? And is the engine running? But like, if the engine's running, there's meat on the reel and the bed knife, and you have availability to parts if or when it breaks, it doesn't really matter the price. Because at the end of the day, it's the action cutting like scissors. That's the most important thing. And if somebody is... if you're being super honest, the difference between a MoMaster cut, as in like how it cuts an individual blade of grass, and a sharp Aussie battery thing, that one cut is no different. What is different is the reliability of the machine, the height of cut, the flatness of the cut, how long that beautiful cut is going to last. And then when you go to the MoMaster, it's because really it's a commercial thing. You're going to get it slammed over speed bumps in the back of a trailer, and accidentally you're going to run over something or whatever, and it's going to handle that. So people, like, you shouldn't be getting sucked into like the sexy machine too much. If you don't have the budget, you can still get amazing finishes with whatever you can get. It just takes more work.
By all means, like, this is... I keep forgetting to say who it is. This is Craig_Willie, by the way. So he if you're laying iron cutter and putting in turf and doing all that, like, you got a fair amount of expenses coming up, so you're probably not going to fork out thousands of dollars. So by all means, like, you could go spend $1,000 on or $2,000 for a ready to go restored cylinder mower. You could get, depending on the size of your yard, like a Super Swift or a Massport or whatever. New cylinder mower, like whatever you want to do. Even like
a second-hand Massport, second-hand Bush Ranger.
Yeah, whatever.
Second-hand Cox or whatever it is out
there. Pick something up somewhere, for sure.
Just grab something.
Yeah, and start there. And then maybe your goal is to save up and to get something like a MoMaster. Eventually, like... You'll have it forever, like you've talked about before. You'll have it forever. I think the build quality thing, like, I actually talk about this a bit in my YouTube video that comes out this Sunday. So this podcast, the video will be up. The video will be up.
For sure.
So anyway, the YouTube video will be up early to mid-July. But my Massport, so if I do a double cut of my front yard, that's 180 square meters of lawn out there. So if I cover 360 square meters, it needs to be readjusted. Like the contact's loose, it's not cutting paper anymore. Whereas on my back lawn, I'm cutting 1,000 square meters for a double cut of 500 squares, and it'll probably stay tight cutting paper for 3, 4, 5 mows. So I can cover 4 to 5,000 square meters with my MoMaster, and it stays cutting paper. The contact between the reel and bed knife is tight, and it's cutting cleanly, and I don't need to touch it. Versus my front yard, 360 square meters, and like I could probably stop after 100, 200, 250, 300 to check it to see what the actual, where it actually starts to lose contact. But I probably could do the single cut, readjust it, and then do the second cut. So for me, I was even talking about in that YouTube video, like how often to backlap and stuff. And I'm like, well, it probably could be every 3 weeks for me for both machines in growing season when I'm cutting 2 or 3 times a week. Because in the backyard, I'm covering about 3,000 square meters a week. At the front yard, I'm covering like 1,000 square meters a week. And that, the wear on both machines, the quality between the two is that it needs a lot more frequent care on the Massport versus that MoMaster, which is just a higher build quality. So it's, holds its contact.
The MoMaster is really the one that you have, because it's residential ones, but that's really a commercial machine. So it's like way over engineered, and that'll last you till you die. You'll hand that down to your kids, and they'll hand it down to their kids.
Not if I'm still here.
What's the next question?
I skipped past a couple to get to a similar question there. I've got a document of the chemicals you use and which one you can and cannot be mixed together. That's from Ryan Dixon. Mm-hmm. Funnily, you say that. I actually have my exact lawn programs on my website. I was chatting to you about this, bringing out more lawn care programs as well for like cool season and tropical climates, and working with some experts in those areas. I figure I've got the audience and the platform and everything, so try and help as many people as possible. Yeah. Push past the imposter syndrome of it all, and be able to put stuff out there that's beneficial. Like I've got my lawn renovation guides as well, which is like everything you can imagine for a lawn renovation, every consideration, your waste, your types of variations to the process, potentially the best order to do things, variations, and like guys like Ben have helped me and given feedback, and other people around the industry. So yeah, you said Tim didn't open your course and have a look at it. He didn't open and give feedback to my lawn program either when I sent it to him initially.
Bloody Tim.
You're a dog, Tim. He answered. I called him earlier to be like, I've got the event tonight. Like, any tips? And he's like, he answered the phone with, "What do you want?" I'm like, mate, I just put a view count on you bloody making a pizza this morning. Bit of politeness, please.
I called him yesterday as well.
But yeah, so like, I've got everything in there. Like one of the lawn care programs is basically bang on my exact program, annual calendar of what to do and when. Ben's got lawn care programs. Even when I initially approached him, he was like, mate, if we grow the industry, like it benefits everyone. And obviously I'm promoting his products within my programs as well. So I want his feedback to make sure that people, if they are going to go and buy his products and put them out when I've said in my program that they're going to get the right results and everything too. So yeah, that's just, I've just taken that a run with that to make it an ad for myself. Sorry, mate. But
as long as I'm getting a 90% commission, I'm fine.
90% is pretty solid. I'll give 90% of a Pepsi Max to you once we finish.
So who gets the other 10? Gary? I'm an easy sale.
And then, yeah, so in terms of mixing chemicals together as well, which products to mix together, I've got notes in my program. Like I try to make it efficient to have timing of applying soil wetter and granular fertilizers at the same time. So put out your granular. Yeah. It's pretty much safe with anything to do. Put out your granular, spray your soil wetter, because then it's like you've just started to get a light misty rain on top of that granular fertilizer, and then bang, like water it in straight away. Mm-hmm. And I've never had an issue doing that. Certain things you can mix together. Ben's lawn tip mixers that I use, like they're all cool to be mixed together. Always ask the question. I think, yeah, there's always ones that can and can't. It's always just safer to separate them. But I've got notes in my program. I'm sure others in their lawn care programs as well have got notes of this can be added to this, or when you do I know you've talked about it before in terms of being efficient as a business, putting out your pre-emergent and your aceleprant and your
Well, you can put
a cocktail of things.
Yeah, and you make more money from it too because it's like I've said this many times, but it's like if you're doing a pre-emergent, you say to the client, "We'll charge you $100 for that." And we'll put a fertilizer in for $30 and we'll put this in for $20. You got $150. But the reality is you've only added $7 worth of more product.
Yeah.
$50 more on the invoice and zero more time. Or there's a couple of minutes to chuck some stuff in. That's where the money really is. And that's where people can get that really sort of, it's the same thing Macca's does with meals, not just buying burgers.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's hard as well because I know certain products of Ben's that I've used many times that can be combined or whatever, but I don't know about other brands and their particular wetting agent, their particular this and that, whatever.
What do you have to do? What you can do, people, if you're unsure and you have product and you don't know if it's going to mix or not, you just do, basically you put some water in a jar and you mix. You don't have to do exactly the rate that people are supposed to be applying
it. Just a tiny
it.
amount, just get a little...
bit of a liquid fert in there, bit of liquid wetting agent in there or whatever herbicide you're going to use, mix it around and you're looking for if it separates, right, or if it creates some sort of goo or some sort of frothing or something like that, don't use it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get little solids forming, especially with liquid ions and humic acid and things like that. So, do a jar test. If you mix it and it's absolutely fine, it doesn't look any different than what you would expect. It's just your product sitting in the water. It's all good. It's just
like some of them too is common sense. Like for some reason, the wetting agent and the herbicide could combine fine, but the wetting agent needs to be watered in straight away to avoid burning, and the herbicide needs to dry on the leaf for 4 hours or whatever to have its full effect to soak into the weed and kill the weed. So sometimes it's like, okay, well, that even if they did mix, that has to be watered in, that has to dry on the leaf. So easily, that's your answer right there. Benno Hono says, is it legal/ethical/moral to spray herbicides over onto the neighbour's side of the shared lawn? Look, if it's like 10 square meters, I'd be like,
yeah.
Depends how shared it is.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it was just a little bit like, hey, there's little bits of patches of grass that kind of go the other boundary. They're 30 centimeters past the boundary.
Oh, there's some controversial ones of that on the internet, isn't there?
People not cutting it.
Yeah.
I would do it, but I wouldn't go too far, And the thing is that
it's in the system of that like grass anyway that you're treating. So if it's like an extra few meters, to me, I'm like, I'd probably always mow that. That's just me. I'd probably always mow that extra few meters of not my nature strip or whatever, because there's not many in our area.
If it's a few minutes, I'm with it. If it's like the whole yard, I would be chatting to them first.
Yeah.
But there is also a thing, like if you're doing it for free, you're fine. But as soon as you start charging, you need a license.
Yeah.
At least that's the case in WA. I don't know what the rest of it is, but any herbicide to charge, it doesn't matter what herbicide it is, you have to, even if it's an organic thing, you got to pay.
I think it's a bit more of an American thing too, with like shared yards, where it's like whereas we have fences here everywhere. So, it's always just going to be a little bit of nature strip. So, I don't know, Ben, I'd do it.
I thought someone's like front yard where there's no fence or whatever. But anyways.
But yeah, I can't think of many places.
There's a few like the new estates and stuff like that we work at where it's like, it's just house, and everyone's got their yard.
If it's like units.
Sort of thing,
Yeah. What's some ideas on how to get the wife on side for lawn care?
As in to help do the work?
I think,
or just
maybe just
spend the money on something like that.
I think we could take it wherever we want to take it. But do you know what? Like, I don't want to.
Tell her you'll do a romantic picnic on the lawn.
I've had like ideas float around my brain of this kind of thing, of like all that time and spent on lawn care and stuff like that. And I'm like, do you know what? Round of golf. Playing
way
golf.
More time on golf.
The actual round of golf, just playing the golf, takes 3.5 to 4 hours. We obviously have to go and have a drink in the clubhouse afterwards. There's
3.5, 4 hours. Oh, 23. Oh, yeah.
You've got to commute to and from. If you want to be good at golf, you've got to play. So I can, even my back lawn, with a double cut where I'm.
You could almost do like a full renovation on a normal lawn. In this, like not your lawn, but like a 150 square meter lawn that you do once or maybe twice a year.
Yeah. So like 45 minutes for me to mow my lawn. I'm at home, creating something that's good. I don't want to attack golf. I can't wait for the time in my life where I play a lot of golf. I just don't have time for it now. Playing footy, other things, blah, blah, blah. There'll be a time in my life where I play a lot of golf. I'm excited for it. It's not going to be soon. So I don't want to attack golf. But even like fishing takes hours, you know?
Yep.
It's probably...
Motorbike riding.
Probably doesn't affect the family as much if you get up in the middle of the
Contemporary
night.
interpretive dance routines.
Yeah,
to choreograph them, that takes hours.
But, you know, in terms of cost, like I actually mathed it out. So this could be...
Math?
This could be updated figures now, but... To maintain, like it's not as much money as I would have expected to maintain my lawn per 100 square meters on my program. And if you exclude liquid fertilizers as well, that's probably the first place I start. So like the actual amount that it costs, like lawn care products is a bigger upfront cost, but that 20 kilo bag of granular fertilizer, 2 kilos per 100 square meters, apply it 4 times a year. That lasts a long time on an average 100 square meter residential yard. Like that $75 bag, it seems like a lot up front. And the pre-emergent that lasts you 5 or 6 years. The wetting agent that's $100 that lasts you, you know, like...
A lot of applications, yeah.
It's longevity out of it too.
Is it his wife or is it his girlfriend?
He says wife.
So what's his name?
Ben. Benno.
So Benno, my recommendation though, after all that technical jargon, let's be honest, your wife's not going to listen. What you got to do is you got to look her in the eye and say, beloved, dearest, I'm just trying to make this lawn come close to your level of beauty. And in that pursuit of excellence, would you please support me?
Yeah.
And then say one day I might even take you on a romantic picnic. And
on the lawn,
and we can hold hands and it will perfectly complement the color in your eyes.
All right, that's enough of that shit.
You got to do whatever you got to do, Benno.
All right, one word answer here. Rare or medium rare for your steak? All other answers are wrong. You?
Zinger box.
Okay, me is medium rare. Answer that. Fescue lawn reno tips. Tassie climate. I think like if you were being a bit TikTok about it, you'd call it my toxic trait. My toxic trait is this. My toxic trait at the moment, I feel like, and I want to anticipate what lawn care experts' answers of some people, how they would respond to this too. My toxic trait at the moment is I think you could drop me in anywhere with lawn and say, maintain this lawn for the next year, and I think I could do it. Yes. Pretty fine.
They're not that different.
Scotland, Spain, Tasmania, Perth, Thailand. I think you'd be able to do it. You'd be able to look at...
I can think of a few places. Antarctica.
Yeah, Antarctica.
The Sahara Desert.
Yeah.
You would struggle there.
Let's stripe up. Stripe up the dunes. But to be honest, like, yeah, lawns, I reckon I mentioned this on a previous podcast too, but it's like, lawns, you know, like...
They're pretty simple.
If you got a basic understanding, you know, I got a basic idea of cool season grasses, and I've grown one ryegrass lawn on my front yard. I'm not, you know, I don't live in the UK, and I'm not using lawn like cool season all the time. But like, I know how it works, you know. Like if I look at Tassie's climate, you know, you can look at it and be like, yeah, that's a cool season grass climate. You know, I've been looking at New Zealand a little bit recently. You kind of look at that and you're like, yeah, cool. Like I can manage that. And yeah, I just reckon if you were, you know, you looked at the weather patterns in, you know, Madrid, you could probably be like,
oh, Madrid, yeah, the great climate for lawn.
You're like, you know, okay, it doesn't get that.
You can do it.
Doesn't get that cool or gets that cool in winter. You probably have to be doing your granular fertile applications here. This is when, you know, you'd look at the products over there. When does your pre-emergent go out? How do you control weeds? Look, it's super humid. You're probably going to have issues with fungal disease. So, you know, these kind of things we'll take into account. Anyway, to answer...
The answer is it's not that complicated. The additional answer is I think Ben has guides for cool season grasses if you really thought it was that complicated.
Different types as well. I think he's got a fescue plan. He's got a rye plan. He's got different things. Yeah,
and sure. Nick is going to do a better version.
Well, Ben's actually stuffing himself up because he's going to help me with it. So.
Oh, mate. What you should just do is you just copy and paste his version and just add just one little thing more. Yeah, like one extra kelp application.
Yeah.
And be like, ours is better.
Do you know what? Someone actually said to me, oh, like you should buy one of Ben's plants just to like see how it looks and blah, blah, blah. Like have a look. I'm like, nah, I actually wouldn't. And even if he said, oh, I'll send you mine for a look, man, I'm like, nah, I wouldn't actually, that's just not me. I wouldn't want to go and buy 10 other lawn programs to then put that all into mine. Like I wanted it to be my own work. And like, even like when I did have sat down with Ben, the first time, my first lot of lawn programs, and it was like, you know, it was really nice to sort of not get too much feedback in a way, like change this and that.
Yep.
If really any, like that was nice to be like, okay, you know, I know what I'm doing. Like this is cool. But yeah, Dwayne 12's question anyway, fescue lawn renovation tips in a Tassie climate is to do it in autumn. Start of autumn is when you want to be renovating your cool season grass. I couldn't believe how dry Tasmania is as a state when we were there in January. But so from that perspective, wetting agent's going to be pretty important in Tassie, especially through summer, and having a good watering setup. So, you know, to keep it going through there. I think, certain parts are actually comparable to Melbourne at certain times of the year. For heat, definitely not in winter. It's a lot colder there. So yeah, definitely doing your major renovation, overseeding and that kind of thing in autumn. If you want to do something in spring, if you want to, you know, for some reason you got some issues or some areas to touch up, you can't do it in spring. But if you are overseeding and stuff, just keeping in mind that if you do that overseeding September, October, when it starts to warm up, you know, and you've got baby grass that's 2 or 3 months old and it's 30 plus, I don't know how often, twice down there.
Yeah.
But
they don't have an ozone layer though.
Yeah. That baby grass is going to struggle a bit more. That's why you want to do your renovation in autumn, coming into that cooler weather when it's more, you know, prominent for it to thrive in that sort of time zone. So yeah, definitely you don't need to scalp and scarify cool season grass types as much. It doesn't thatch up as much as which actually leads into the next question, which is cool. But it doesn't thatch up and that sort of thing. So in terms of when you see a lot of us guys with warm season grass types who are verticutting and scarifying and scalping a few times during the season, you definitely don't need to do that as much with cool season grasses because it just doesn't thatch up as much. But what have you got to add?
Nothing. I think you covered it good.
No cool season lawns.
No, I was just like, look at that rain.
Yeah. Could you imagine trying to keep a cool season lawn alive in Perth?
You can under a tree. I did actually have this one client that had kikuyu and then somebody had thrown some rice seed and it stayed good under a tree the entire year. And I was like, not too bad.
See, we actually here in Melbourne are in like, you could very easily. There was actually a guy who's got my lawn programs who was in the Facebook group and his backyard underneath this tree was just taking so long to recover from his spring reno. And it was kind of like, you know,
not enough.
Whereas his front lawn was back because it was like so much more sun and everything. And it's like, that's like microclimates are so important. And in Melbourne, you could definitely do it. Keep a ryegrass lawn or a cool season lawn. It'd be a lot of inputs.
Way more water.
What's that?
Way more water as well.
Yeah, heaps and more,
especially compared to like a Tiff Tuff or any of those other hybrid bred cooches.
Yeah, it's going to be way more thirsty. But you could do it, and especially potentially there could be people with, like you just said, under a tree, microclimates within their own yard, where for whatever reason the way the sun moves around, that your backyard is, you know, a wasteland for cool season grass, but your kikuyu or your cooch is great there. And on your front yard, because of these conditions and this tree and this amount of light and whatever, that you could keep a cool season lawn all year pretty comfortably. So, yeah. Anyway.
Find the right spot. All right, next one.
I want to hear you talk about how you treat buffalo over there.
Is this a question that we have?
So it's from Ducky _. Ryobi scarifier and dethatcher attachments, when to use and which grass types. So I'm happy to talk about my kike and how often I do use my Ryobi scarifier, but we've spoken before about how you treat your buff lawns for your clients.
I think the problem with the Ryobi scarifier is that it's got the wrong name. I think technically speaking, it'd be better to be called a Ryobi groomer because, and this is for most of those low voltage battery like setups, a real scarifier, like if you compare it to a commercial scarifier, way more power, goes deeper.
Yeah.
It's a budget option, and it's a great budget option. You have a small amount of lawn, but you really, and I've seen you do this, a lot of people, they use the rotary first, then they scarify.
Yeah.
If you got the power, you could just do that all in one pass. So that's a little side note that I think one of the things, because when the Ryobi Scarifier first came out, I actually bought it and did a side-by-side comparison. This is way before having broadcast or anything. I did a side-by-side comparison video with a MoMaster on WA Lawn Addicts if people want to have a look.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you know what, like for value for money, if you have a ute and you can go hire one for half a day and just run over the lawn and then come back, you're going to get better value for money. This is a side tangent.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's just a thing. I think the way I'd be using a Ryobi Scarifier is I'd be actually be doing it because it's not that aggressive, right? You can set it just to take the tops off.
Mm-hmm.
I would just be doing like multiple passes a year that's just tickling the surface, using it as a groomer, sucking all the stuff up with the, like, you're not trying to get to dirt, you're not trying to make it look ugly. You might have a few little patches, let's say like 5% of the lawn where you can kind of see a little bit of soil poking through, right? But if you do that often, you get this tight-knit look, and you actually, if you have that Scarifier, don't treat it like a Scarifier, treat it like a groomer. You could do it monthly, you could do it every 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever. And I don't think you would need to do as many renovations.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where that type of machine shines more than a Scarifier that you would technically use once a year for a full reno. So I'm just saying, what I'm getting at is, if you're going to buy that machine, you could use it monthly, light tickle. Ben talks about this with like the grooming. It's really common.
Yep.
But most people don't do it, and they have this weapon sitting in their yard or in their shed, and they could.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when it gets super vigorous kikuyu growth, you know.
Easy.
Yeah,
you've accidentally put a little bit too much out, a little bit of inexperience, too much fert out, and too much water, and then you're cutting all the time.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple of instances last year. Like one, you know, Ollie was unwell and in hospital. The other one was just holiday, and I sort of, for different reasons, didn't use PGR before we went. But there was quite a few times where I just didn't have the consistent mowing.
Yeah.
And that just allowed it to get away from me a bit and thatch up. And then with a cylinder mower, it just starts to float, and it's really hard to control and go side to side. And it becomes frustrating, I find, to be like, this mower just won't stay straight.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think for me, in a perfect world, in terms of if you've got a Ryobi Scarifier or whatever, spring renovation, go for it. Like, I think if a contractor turned up at your house with actually, this could become a 10-minute side tangent, by the way. But if a contractor turned up at your house with a Ryobi Scarifier, you're probably like, well, for one thing, it's not going to be as efficient with your time, as you pointed out.
That you're making no money.
Yeah. But because I had a mate bring over his MoMaster verticutter, and we did a day here when my very first renovation, slammed through it like it was, a dream. It was great. And definitely there's no comparing one of a commercial verticutter machine and how deep that's going to get into that thatch layer, etc., compared to a lighter battery thing. Having said that, it's one of those things, especially if you've got a kike or a cooch or whatever, where, you know, you can be using it throughout the season to give it a little tickle. I sort of, for me, probably every 4 or so weeks, like, to me, in a perfect world, if it's really thatchy at the end of winter, maybe at the start of December, you might just give it a little bit of a thin out just to open it up and let it breathe a bit, put out a granular fertilizer when the soil temp's warm enough, get it growing, get it, bit of breathing a little bit. And then start of October or so, hit it with your heavy renovation. So you're going over it 2-3 times to really rip it up at that point in time. And then you're probably at full recovery by the start of November, and then regular mowing from there. So probably by the end of November, getting in before it gets away from you. Because that's the thing. If you go to start doing these little tickles when it's way too thatchy, you're kind of at a point where you need a scalp it.
Well, you start seeing You got to do it before you think you need it if you're inexperienced.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it doesn't really need it, just do it.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised about how much comes out and then how it looks like you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
It's like, I've put out all this grass and it looks like I've done nothing. It's like, that's good.
Yeah.
That's when it's good.
You're not particularly probably removing as much thatch. It's more so that canopy and that layering of those stolons.
That's what becomes thatch.
Yeah.
So it's all preventative. So yeah, like, honestly, like, if you have kikuyu in the growing season, you could use the Ryobi Scarifier again as a groomer like fortnightly, say through the absolute peak. So 3 fortnights in a row, really light, and that might stop you from actually having that big build up.
Yeah.
And you might, if you get it right, you might not even notice that you've really used it. But that's
just fluffing it up a little bit.
Yeah, just taking out a tiny bit, and you're trying to just balance that, and then it stays firm, doesn't get too thatchy.
Yep.
There's an art to it, but what I'm getting at is if I was going purely financially and I had a ute or I had a trailer that I could hire something with, right? If I was going to do a once a year thing, I wouldn't buy a Ryobi, because I would hire a machine for the $100 once a year, get it done. But if I was going to buy the Ryobi, anyone who has one already, don't just use it once a year and then have it sitting in your shed. It's a much better tool, in my opinion, as a groomer. Yeah. And so think about it as a groomer that could be used in kind of as a scarifier, not a scarifier that also can be used as a groomer.
Yeah, yeah. See, for me, and this is something I've got in my renovation guide as well, in terms of comparing costs and stuff like that. For a scarifier, groomer, whatever, something like that, don't go and hire one for $150, 1-2 times a year, whatever. Get the battery one, or even go up a little bit more to some of those like more entry kind of petrol ones. I'm not as familiar with the entire market, but like Predator and stuff like that. Like, get one of those. Like, buy one of those, because you'll make your money back. If you're into lawn care for Ryobi, it's sort of 3 hires is 1 purchase. For some of those other ones, it might be 5 or 6 hires as 1 purchase. Like, buy one, definitely. Like, if you're into it and you have the means and everything like that, there's a lot of things to spend money on this hobby. When it comes to aerating, if you do have a smaller yard, buy a hand corer. But if you've got a bigger yard, you're not going out and spending $4,000, 5 more on a corer. Like, just hire one.
$4,000 is a cheap corer.
Okay, there you go. So, hire one for $150. Maybe you hire it for the day, and you do, you get 3 or 4 mates together, and you do a few, and you split it or whatever.
You could like with a billy goat or whatever they've got. Most people have got the bluebirds. You could do 100 square meters in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's like you've spent, I don't know what the hire fees are around the country, but 120, 150 is kind of normal in Perth. You've spent that much money, but you could literally just call all your neighbours if you have good relationships with them. Hey, I'm going to get this, and then you get 5 neighbours that chip in. It's $20 each, or $30 each, depending on what the price is. And then you still got it done in 2 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the thing. Scarifiers and stuff, buy it. It adds up. Corers, unless it's a small yard with a hand corer, you make your money back quicker with that, and it's probably a lot of the yards I'm thinking of, it's too small to even fit a lot of those coring machines in anyway. But yeah, hire a corer, buy a hand one, but buy the scarifier, and on certain grass types you're probably using it. Yeah, for me with Kikuyu, I'm probably looking to use it every 3 or 4 weeks, because I'm sort of every 3 weeks I'm applying either wetting agent or liquid fertilizer, so probably making a bit of an afternoon of it and going across, giving it a little bit of a tickle with the scarifier, pulling up a little bit of excess material, giving it a nice clean cut, putting out either that wetting agent and watering it in, or then putting out my liquid fert for that block. So it's kind of getting something at the same time after giving a little tickle. It gives you a bit of a routine to it, and you're probably going to keep yourself looking pretty nice. I think the reality is with a lot of people in a lot of seasons is that you do have Christmas time and then you go away for a week or something, or things just happen, the weather, or someone gets sick, or you do something that it just does get away from you at times, and you do just need to do that midsummer little scalp or freshen up. But yeah, I think you can be using it easily in a season, in a sort of September to late March or so, just to give it a final little freshen up before it really starts to cool down. You can easily be using it 6 or 7 times and getting really good use out of it if you want to be taking your lawn care that far.
Yeah. We've only got a few more left.
Scalping with a turf cutter for major renovation in spring.
Got to talk to
Carpsy, is that
Dave about that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Dave Hall from my Lawn Co, if you guys aren't aware.
Yeah.
He did a video on that. By the way, he put one up, and it went viral on Facebook, and he's using the vocals, what's the word, the audio from the podcast. Didn't tag me.
No, missed out on millions of subscribers.
I missed out on all the hate, because that's basically what it was. No,
I've had comments before saying, wouldn't it just be easier to get a turf cutter? And I'm like, well, maybe. But
certain sections. If you had a lumpy yard and you had like a high point, it's a great excuse to get a turf cutter. I mean, it's a lot. Again, you're hiring a lot of money for what's usually a pretty small lump, but that's the best way to get rid of a lump is to turf cut the top off it. If you have, this should be clear. If you have buffalo, don't do it because it will kill the buffalo.
Yeah,
you need something left on top. But if you have cooch, kikuyu, some people have zoysia, you could do it.
Yep.
Cut the top off. It also depends how big your lump is, but I reckon 2 centimeters to 3 centimeters being cut off of soil for cooch and kikuyu. I haven't got too much experience with zoysia. That would recover. Take a while, but it would recover.
Yeah, and I would be probably worried about, depending on what sort of machine you get, about leaving a beautiful flat finish, just where your runs overlap, and if you do have lumps and bumps, and if you put a few gouges in it, I'd be worried about leaving it nice and flat when I'm finished. Or it probably depends if you get an old clunky, crappy machine.
You're talking about the turf cutter.
The actual turf cutter.
Yeah,
because it bounces around all over the place.
Yeah, so when Dave did it, he top dressed immediately after doing it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the top dress is going to be super easy, but if you're just going to turf cut, there is a chance that it's not going to be flat.
Yeah. I'm excited to do this on my front yard. I've got lots of little spots where moving onto the pavers or onto the footpath where it's raised, and it's just annoying to get off and on, and you know what I mean?
Yep.
You're on those little bits with a cylinder mower and it kind of chunks into it a bit. It's probably worse with a rotary mower when you got little bits like that, but I'm going to next season probably do a mixture out the front there of some where I just get a shovel and scrape off the top.
Yeah,
and those rhizomes will just regenerate back through, but also do some different ones where I sort of cut out a block of it and then move it away, dig out the soil from underneath, and then put that little bit of turf back in there.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting to see how it goes for both methods. But that's some things you can sort of do that hasn't been a question that's asked, but you can do that as well to remove high spots and stuff like that as well. Just dig it out, and for some, you might just scrape the top off it, and you'll still see root system there that will just regenerate, so you don't need to do anything about it. If it was ryegrass or something.
Kaiku and cooch will go down 30, 40, 50, 60 centimeters. It's like how quickly it'll become thick in that spot.
Yeah.
And the stuff next to it will grow across. I've top dressed 5-6 centimeters deep in holes, and it's actually we're not talking about massively wide, so maybe half a meter wide. And, you find that the stuff grows across the top or it comes through eventually. And
gets there.
It's with those lawns, they're just great in that sense, especially if you've already got it. But then again, if you've got a big patch that now we're talking about low spots, I've done this before as well. We had a really low spot. We just gone and bought a single roll
just plonked
of turf and then top dressed and plonked the turf on there, and you level it all out, and it's the quickest way because it'll come through.
Yeah.
What else? Sorry, you can go on. Yeah.
Just a general interest question to see if you know the answer, because I feel like I would just be making something up that I feel like I've heard before. But if a turf farm harvests at the start of September and just is cutting the top off, how long would they get a second harvest generally in that season?
Don't know.
I feel like I've heard it before. I feel like I've heard Emma talk about it or something.
They definitely get they're leaving. It'll come back through there. But I would guess as well, they would be probably pumping the heck out of that with fertilizer and water and everything to get it back.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's because they're full-time people. They're working,
I don't think you're ever going to get 3 harvests out of a zoysia paddock, but potentially a kikuyu, if you cut it, especially in New South Wales where it's a little bit warmer than us here in Melbourne, if you cut a kikuyu paddock in September, I don't know, is it realistic to get a harvest in December and April? I don't know.
Well, today is Tuesday, and next week Monday I'm going to be at Lawn Solutions.
Well, give me a call live, and I'll ask you through.
No, Mr. Joe, tell me.
There was only one question I accidentally skipped here. Diesel _ dad 24. How do I stop moss while watering lawn? Grass is too dry. When I water it more, I get moss.
This is a quick fire.
Yeah, tell us.
Oh, so if I'm telling you, most likely you're getting the moss because you've got too much shade. So there actually may be an issue with the fact that it's just not a good spot for lawn. But sulfur, iron, there's things like that to kill the moss to get it going, and it's not some sort of harsh, chemical.
Mm-hmm.
There are other sprays as well, but most people do that. Now, I would, though, think that the problem is probably that it's actually the location is too wet, as in the soil maybe too clayey, too dry, not enough airflow, and that's what's causing it. So you actually may need to consider, if it is like in the corner of a fence and a house or something like that, south-facing, you probably are going to easier to win the fight by just converting that into a little bit of extra garden bed if there is something there, putting in plants to actually thrive in that location.
Mel, if you're still listening, this is actually something that I am big on as well, in terms of sometimes grass is just not the best thing to be in that spot.
Yep.
My back fence, I was talking about this on my story the other day when I did a few questions last week, but at my back fence line, coming in about a metre off that back fence, zero sun right now. All day, zero sun. And the grass is yellowing a lot quicker. It's getting really thin. It's struggling because it needs sun.
Yep.
Whereas in summer, spring, summer, early autumn, that will have sun probably from 10 to 11 o'clock. And it's still, depends where those trees are, but it's still probably, especially midsummer when the sun is setting at 9 o'clock, it's getting a solid, probably until at least 7 p.m., 6 p.m. So it's getting a solid amount of sun. It's full sun by then. So it's cool. It'll struggle a bit for me there. Moving all of that garden edging and stuff, sort of also coming back to that first thing. Like, it's a lot of work. All those garden beds are existing, and I'm just going to leave it how it is. But yeah, for me on my front yard as well, that top corner right in front of the house there, it doesn't get sun. It probably gets a couple of hours at this time of year. So it is struggling a bit, and I honestly am. It's a little patch of lawn on that front section. Like, I really don't like my 5 sections in the front yard. It's annoying. But that little corner, so there's a garden bed there that does sort of curl, and then it cuts back into the house, where potentially just having it continue straight on across there. So that little dingy corner, which even in summer probably at maximum gets maybe 5 hours, where I've never really had the lawn going in that spot. So potentially just going, all right, rebending all this edging and digging and everything will be annoying, but to kind of grow some more things in front of the house there and fill it up a bit more with some stuff that are going to enjoy that shade.
Yeah, so more suitable. Makes
and add a bit more colour and look nice there. Maybe for me, that's just a spot where lawn is just a bit, it's okay, but it struggles a bit too much.
There's no point in fighting. Like, at the end of the day, light and water, if you don't have enough of the two, you shouldn't be putting in a plant that needs more of it. Like, it doesn't matter what fertilizer you put down or whatever. And I've seen this a few times, like, especially with clients in certain areas that are hilly or whatever, and they've got the retaining wall and a fence on top of it and the lawn next to it. It never grows, and they just keep persisting, and you're just like, no, put something in. Great plants, like liriope is one that we go to a lot, where it's a grassy plant. A lot of your forest plants will do well, so like your philodendrons or your perenniums or things like that. A lot of indoor plants, they do well in those scenarios. So
something I find really cool about star jasmine as well. I've got it on that trellis by the pool there, and it gets barely any sun, but star jasmine it'll grow in full sun or full shade. Yeah, I think it's really cool.
Yeah,
so you can put that in to climb up a fence.
You might have challenges with like how many flowers it develops.
Yeah,
it depends. If
some greenery. Yeah,
it's greenery, but like if you get the sun at the right time of year, all that sort of stuff. But there's plenty of plants that would do way better than lawn. And a lot of people once they realize that, they go, "Oh, sweet, I wouldn't mind something." Different there anyway.
Or you can put a swing set there for the kids, or you can just other things in general that could go there.
Paintball gun to shoot people who go past that you don't like.
Yes.
Yeah.
All the people.
Am I the only person who's ever thought about that?
Can I line up people from the comment sections there?
I've thought about like a radio-controlled paintball gun.
Yeah.
right? And, someone drives on the lawn, go for it.
Yeah, I got a problem with that. Did you see the thank you I put up to that guy the other day there's like his comment is something about kill lawns and plant natives and stuff. And it's like over 100 replies on it. And he was in there the other day and his comment back to someone else was like, I give an F what you think or something like that. And so I just said, mate, I haven't read through this thread recently, but I just want to say thank you so much for continuing to comment, boost the engagement. Really means a lot. Like, thanks heaps. You're doing a great job for me. Like, I appreciate you boosting the view count. Out of this 19 million, I owe you 5, I'm sure.
We should take some clips from this and see how much,
what hate can we get?
Well, just how much, how much we can trigger people.
Do you know what? I think we've been far too reasonable and nice human beings with an actual complete perspective.
We were being ourselves. That's it. That's the issue. We should have been trying to annoy, manipulate the algorithm and
grass only. Everything else can die.
Have we got all the questions?
No.
Okay, I feel like that would have been a great. You turned your phone off, so I was like, "Oh, well, we done."
Do you know what? I actually had a thing that popped up when I closed that saying, "You've been on Instagram for 10 minutes. Do you want to have a break?" So that
10 minutes,
that hour and a bit. Yeah, I've got a thing set that comes up after 10 minutes. Because I'm just like, I actually really like it too. I'm like, wow, okay, it has been 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Actually, I said this to you the other day. I actually don't like social media that much. I think there's a lot of good stuff on social media, but that's where one of my things is I want to try and put out content that helps people get out into their yard, get off social media, see projects or learn things about lawn care or gardening or whatever to get out there and do it. There's lots of great creators and stuff where I don't feel like I'm wasting my life. But I said this to you Sunday as well. Like, I opened up my phone, must have been Saturday morning or something, and the first 4 posts were just like pure, absolute rubbish. Just stupid.
Do you
stuff.
click the I don't want to see this?
I actually have started doing it. I forgot about that feature.
I do. I did that all the time, and now my Instagram is. I used to get a lot of. It was very strange. So I used to be a swimmer, and I used to follow a lot of swimmers, and I still do follow a lot of swimmers, right? But these are professional athletes who happen to be in swimwear, but it's usually a one piece, usually just a Speedo one piece or a Ren or whatever.
The algorithm thought you wanted porn.
The algorithm thought I wanted bikini models.
Yeah.
And so I kept clicking I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this.
Oh, it's like...
Because I was like, female swimmers. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
Or male swimmers. But anyways. But it worked. Eventually it worked. And it was like, I don't get random bikini models who are just,
clearly, obviously these things they're trying to get you. They're trying to get your attention. They're trying to get you to keep scrolling. I remember when I first started TikTok because I was like,
I don't even have it yet. I haven't jumped out there.
Don't. But I was like, I just repost my reels on there and stuff. And so I was like, you know what? I'll get TikTok and I'll post it on there as well. And if something goes well on Instagram, it tends to go well on TikTok as well. I've got I think it's 135,000 on TikTok. So it's like, there's an audience there, and it helps potentially for brands to be like, oh, hey, I'll also post this on TikTok. So, and I've got more audience there. So cha-ching, please.
Well, I should probably go on TikTok for the sake of doing exactly that. Just reposting, hey, the podcast is out or whatever.
Oh, you just never know. It might hit. But when I first joined TikTok though, the feed that I just opened up the app, welcome to TikTok. Yep. Cool. And it was just like porn, just like nudity, half nudity of, and I'm like, look.
So you found my secret account.
Yeah. I'm like, there's a time.
What the hell is Luke doing in a G-string?
I'm a heterosexual man. There's a time and place for this in my life. I just don't need to be in the doctor's waiting room opening up to, hey, what's on Instagram or what's on TikTok today and have essentially porn. Like I would.
The thing that was getting me about which is annoying was I kept saying, I don't want to see this. And it was like I'm following gardening accounts or I'm following whatever, music or whatever it was that has, these are the things I'm following. Why don't you just show me more of the things that I'm already looking for? Go through my search and get that, So it works eventually. I still get the other thing is gym guys.
Mm-hmm.
You follow some gym content and then all of a sudden it's roided up guys to the max.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I just wanted a physical trainer and like some technique stuff or something interesting about diet or something.
Well, then it's a meal prep video, but the camera angle is from the back with a basically a G-string on.
Yeah,
for a female.
I was like, yeah, these roided up men, is that what they do?
Well, like even golf, I'll watch golf stuff and I enjoy golf
true.
stuff and but then it'll give me
some girl who's wearing hardly anything with golf. Oh my goodness.
The slow motion crop top thing. And I'm like, once again, a heterosexual man, time and place. But I'm like, I just don't need this every hour.
If I wanted that, I'd just go golfing with my wife. All right?
Sorry, awkward laugh.
Mate,
hello, Kate. If you're not, she won't listen. No, she hasn't listened to other episodes I've been on.
She doesn't love you.
That's
the other side. It doesn't matter the commitment, the marriage, everything else that you've been through. She's been there with you. If she doesn't listen to the podcast, it was all a lie.
I don't know. To be honest, I don't even want to listen to myself bang on about bullshit.
I wonder how many people are still listening.
Yeah, probably none.
Some people
We're probably getting into waffle territory.
Mate, waffle territory is where this podcast ends up if you go long enough. Do we have any more questions?
We've got no more questions.
Oh, there was one from Joel about Ash.
You bring that up if you want to bring that up.
He said, so Ash is coming tonight. So it's Joel, Ash, and Nick. And Ash has it's like a group project, right? And if we're being honest, I mean, these are my events. So I have very little expectation of the guests. But obviously, like all the organising stuff's done by me. But you and Joel have really helped with promoting it. Like you've dedicated yourselves to promoting it. You've done a great job with that. I think Ash has been twiddling his thumbs. But anyway, Cass from Outback Gardens shared it the other day. She's doing her own event. Yeah. I'm supportive of that. I shared her event. This is later in October, I believe. But anyway, so she's been apparently more supportive. We should call her right now. I've got her phone number. Cass.
We're waffling too much already.
Cass, come replace Ash. We'll kick him out.
Swap over.
We've got a new guest for tonight.
I'm sure Ash will be very happy to be at the event. I'm sure we'll have a great yarn. I'm sure we'll have a bit of fun on the stage there. I'm actually a little bit nervous. I think by the time you turn up and start meeting people and stuff, hopefully this rain goes away.
Yeah, I'm hoping it all happens out. I got a message from Greenworks during the podcast saying, what are we doing with the rain?
Yeah. Turn it off.
Yeah, let me have a look.
No, mate, looking forward to that. And
I better get back to him.
By the time I'm on the live event, and there's 4 episodes of me, I think we need to cut me off for a while, mate. This is too much.
No talking anymore. All right. Well, I've got about 8 messages to reply to now, apparently.
Yep. Got things to organise, got things to do.
Everybody who's coming tonight, who's going to listen to this well into the future, looking forward to seeing you tonight.
It was good to meet you.
Nick's nervous, so come up to him and give him a big kiss. That'll make him feel so much better.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Anyways, everybody else will see you in the next podcast.
Thanks, mate. Good fun. Cheers.
Hey guys, Shane here from Lawn Culture Australia. It is a lawn rewards club where you go in the draw to win both weekly and monthly prizes. Prizes consist of lawn care packs, cylinder mowers, rotary mowers, aerators, dethatchers and power equipment bundles. All things lawn care, all from reputable brands. It's not just about the prizes either. As well as the giveaways, you have access to partners discounts, personalised lawn education, invites to exclusive events, plus you'll be part of giving back to grassroots sports. This is not just for experienced lawn experts. Novice to fanatics, our club is for everyone. It's about getting outside and enjoying your lawn and being part of a supportive community. So come on, let's grow together. Join Lawn Culture Australia today.